heading down to the local shops to be a human pincushion again, and as you can see there's quite a few dark clouds over there. Hopefully they won't open up. We've had a lot of rain last few weeks. Every day it's rained pretty well, but it's kept the temperatures down, so I'm not complaining in the slightest. It's very good. So that's excellent. Happy with that. Yeah, I could take the bike up there, but it's just a bit of a hassle. I've got to stuff about with the battery and all the other things, and walking's not bad exercise anyway, so achieves the same goal, just takes a little longer. It takes 20 minutes each way as opposed to probably about 6-7 minutes on the bike, so not a big deal. But yeah, like I say, it's not a bad day. It's not don't have blistering sunshine, which we're very hot this time of year. I think I burnt my nose on Monday when I had my marathon bike ride and walk up to Clifton Beach. So I was out and about a lot, and I've had a bit of skin shedding on the nose, so I must have copped quite a bit of sun on that. Even though I did actually put some sunscreen on after my bike ride, but maybe it wasn't enough. Maybe if I'd done it before the bike ride would have helped. Anyway, no big deal. Slight discomfort. Got a lot worse things to worry about than that. And I'm back into the old routine again on Monday. That's why I'm doing my blood test today. And so it's good to have a break from it over Christmas, but now back into the old routine, a bit of a rut. That's life, I guess. You've got to really work hard at breaking out of ruts. And I think I'm going to do today is actually buy some more greens at the local shops, because I didn't have a Coles delivery yesterday, which I would normally have on a Thursday. I just didn't really need enough stuff to justify it, because you've got to get a minimum of $50 worth of groceries to have a delivery, and I would have been struggling. I could always augment it with chocolate bars and stuff. That always gets it over the edge, but I really didn't need them desperately, so I'm going to wait till next week. And I've got plenty of mineral water. That's the main thing. All the heavy stuff I like getting delivered. So I've got plenty of tonic water and mineral water. So that's my main impetus to get the deliveries done. So and as long as I can all meet my greens today, I'll be pretty right. I had a second portion of beef rendang last night that I'd cooked up. I got 3 portions out of it. Usually I'd get about 4. I must have made a bit more generous. It was a fair bit of meat, and it was delicious because I'd slow cooked it, and I got rid of most of the liquid in it, and you have to really boil it down. I think I slow cooked it for about 4 hours, and I made a really good batch. So if you don't do that, it's just way too diluted and it just doesn't have the flavour. Also, I didn't eat it until a day after I'd actually made it, and I think that makes a difference. You need to allow the all the spices and everything to permeate the meat. So yeah, it was really nice last night, as good as I'd bought on the streets in Malaysia. So that was nice, really nice to have that at home. And I reckon it probably cost me about $5 to make it home. So still bloody cheap compared to what you'd pay dining out, which obviously would be more like $15 or something, I suppose, these days. And it probably wouldn't have been a bigger portion. So yeah, so I've been varying my food intake, and I haven't, you know, one thing I haven't had for ages is a steak. I just don't eat that sort of food much anymore. And that's probably the most meat I actually had was yesterday in that meal, because it's diced beef, and I think that cost about $11.50 on special. the 500 gram pack of that. And like I said, I probably could have made 4 portions out of it quite easily, but I indulged myself a bit this time. So yeah, I'll do that again. It's one of the easiest meals to make. Ooh, really easy, because I use the beef rendang paste, so that's already prepared. You just got to stir it in, and then slow cook it. The actual recipe says you only cook it for an hour. That's total BS in my opinion. It needs a lot more time than that. I guess it makes it easier to sell the product when they sort of claim these sorts of things, but in reality, I think it takes about, if you simmer it, about 4 hours. Anyways, beautiful, really nice food. And tonight I'll probably slice up some ham, excuse me, some bacon. I'll cut it up into strips and then saute it with garlic, and then add it to spaghetti, and have and of course cover it with Parmesan cheese, which I love. So it'll be a nice meal too. Good thing I like my own cooking. It saves me a lot of money. I rarely eat out when I'm here, so it'd be nice to do socially, I guess. I'm probably going to be having drinks today at the beach house. It seems to be something that Steve likes to do on a regular basis, so that's good. It's so funny in a way. His name's Steve, and my old drinking buddy from Cairns, who left the city probably about 4 years ago now and set up in central Brisbane, he's also named Steve. Mind you, that Steve, he drinks virtually, well, pretty well every day. So much so he gets that discount. Gets a very good discount on his beer. But I still won't have to pay his drinking bill each week in spite of that. So yeah, it is funny. And not only have they got the same first name, that's not such a great coincidence. I guess Steve's a fairly common name. But what is strange is we're going to be drinking at the beach house, and the beach house is the bar where Steve in Brisbane drinks at mainly. So that is a bit weird, but I guess life is like that. You have these funny coincidences. As usual, I've been following the Ukrainian conflict quite a bit online. There's several different channels that I follow regularly to get an overview of what's going on. Actually, only one of them is in Russia itself, and it's a channel called 1420, and it's basically an interview channel where they go and interview people in the streets in the big cities such as Moscow and St. Petersburg, but also go out into rural areas. And they ask some pretty controversial questions, ones that could land the guy running the channel into custody. So he's a gutsy guy. And even though the interviews are obviously curated to some degree by the filmmakers, because of course they are the ones who make the choice on what's actually shown and how it's edited, I think he gives a fairly good representation of what people think in Russia. And that's one thing that's rather unique about this war, is that the media coverage is quite pervasive. You know, you have this in-depth type of reporting, much better than, say, some dickhead talking head wears tons of makeup in front of the camera and really doesn't know much about the subject they're talking about anyway, just using a teleprompter most of the time. In this case, this guy's done off his own bat as a YouTube channel, and it seems pretty authentic. I think he just goes out there with his sound guy, and he gets some great footage, because some of the opinions, especially in the rural areas, are quite staggering, because there's definitely a dichotomy between rural and urban Russia. The people in the cities make comments that are much more thoughtful than what you get in the rural areas. In general, the rural areas, you'll get a lot of parroting of propaganda. Not so much in the big cities. And that's probably why Vladimir has been recruiting from regional areas in the Far East, for instance, Siberia, rather than areas like Moscow and St. Petersburg, because he'll get the most pushback from those areas, although the average Russian is shit scared to say anything what they really think. It's amazing what they actually do say, given the circumstances. If I was living there, I'll be honest with you, I'd be very measured in what I'd say. And I'd probably make oblique comments rather than overtly say something that's anti-Putin. There's not much to be gained. I mean, the man's pretty ruthless. He's just asked a number of dead oligarchs who have just mysteriously fallen out of windows how Vlad operates. I mean, watching The Sopranos and enjoying that over the last month or two, just watching from season 1 right through to 6, and you know, the way the mafia operates is not that dissimilar to the way the Russian government seems to be doing things. It's extraordinary. I personally believe that if Vlad does actually have a third huge mobilization, that could be it. I don't think that's going to go down well, because these mobilized people are just cannon fodder. They're not trained properly. They don't have leadership now. They've lost all their good leaders from the regular forces, and it'll be a schmozzle. Classic sort of Russian, just basically undervaluing the individual. They're just a cog in a gigantic meat grinding machine. And even though it's a very suppressed population, protests will build up, and maybe partisan activity will build up too within Russia. So lots of things can happen. I would not be bold enough to predict how this is going to end. I would say that it's more likely than not that Ukraine will get what they want. I don't think, unless the West buckle, I think the Russians can't continue this for any length of time unless something unexpected happens, because their economy is going to be weaker and weaker every day. This drags on because the lack of Western expertise will have a more and more of an effect as time goes on, even to the extent that it may lead to a huge drop in oil revenues, because they just can't extract from the more difficult fields in northern Siberia, which really do require Western expertise. It's not easy to recover a lot of this oil. And their revenue base is dropping anyway because of the cap on the amount that they can sell their oil. There are sanction bustings happening, there's a lot of that happening, but overall, Russia is now running a deficit, so the war is having a significant impact on them, and they don't seem to have the expertise to even replace a lot of their own hardware that they've lost, military hardware, because it requires Western parts. Again, sanction busting might get around that, but overall it's going to be difficult. The only bright spot, I suppose, for Russia is that they've got plenty of food. They're not going to starve, but inflation will probably keep going up, so it's going to be more expensive to feed themselves unless they grow their own which no doubt a lot do. But I just think that the living standards for both Ukrainians and Russians is going to drop quite substantially. And the thing is, though, that Ukraine will get a lot of help to rebuild their country. I can't see that happening with Russia. I think there'd be a lot of calls to break up the whole Russian Federation and make it less of a threat. I think one of the great ironies is that Putin labelling Ukraine as fascists, and this is from a guy who's doing everything in the playbook that Nazi Germany would do or did do in the Second World War, invading neighbouring countries and carrying out war crimes, bombing civilians. This is all from the Nazi playbook. So yes, it's a sick old world we live in. Just hopefully things will finally resolve themselves. But I mean, I think the only way it's going to resolve is to allow Ukraine to have access to long-range weaponry so that they can take out targets within Russia, because the Russians are moving their bases further and further back because things like drone attacks are affecting them. So if the Ukrainians can also get missiles that go for hundreds of kilometres, it's going to cause a lot of Russians to rethink things, especially if they get collateral damage in their own country, which has been pretty well avoided at this stage, very little. So I think that's the only way to knock sense into them, unfortunately. You know, we're back in the Stone Age, aren't we, with this sort of stuff? Brute force. Haven't evolved much as a species. Please consider subscribing to my channel if you think there's anything there of use to you, or entertainment or whatever. And either do that or give me a thumbs up, or if you're feeling really energetic, do both. That'd be great.